This is Valerie.
And this is Jacinta.
And you're listening to Catholics, a Catholic podcast by millennials for millennials.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. It's Jacinta here and Valerie is also with us.
What's up, guys?
We're now operating out of not one, but two cities. We are operating out of the greater St. Louis area and also Denver, Colorado.
That's right.
Yes. So Valerie and I are we're glad to be back and glad to be talking. Last week we had that episode with Mary. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues, so we will be re-recording that because we know that that is an important topic. She was talking about chastity, and it's kind of a blessing in disguise that that episode didn't work out just because we didn't have our lovely Val on that episode. And let's be honest, it just wasn't the same without you. So
that was a nutso week.
it was not so.
That was the week I was trying to pack my whole life up and get out to Denver. And then I had a flat tire on my car the night we were supposed to record. So
Yeah, if that's not spiritual warfare, I don't know what is.
True.
Yeah, I always over spiritualize everything, so just go with it.
Yeah, everything wrong that happens just into like spiritual warfare.
It's true. I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened. It's the devil. It's Satan. He's out to get me.
Oh goodness. Well, he is, but
I know. So Valerie, how are you?
I'm good. I miss being in St. Louis with you, though.
I know. So guys, we were just talking about how it feels like Valerie and I have switched lives with one another because she's now at the Augustine Institute where I just graduated from and where I work part-time. And I was at Lindenwood, Val's alma mater, the other night giving a talk. And there were people there that knew you. And I'm talking to Val on the phone. I'm like, girlfriend, it's like we've switched lives or something.
No, it is kind of weird.
Yeah. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday. I know. Mm-hmm. So now I guess we have to see.
Twilight Zone-ish.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I want my Denver life back.
Yeah, maybe we'll get you back out here.
Oh gosh, don't say that too loudly.
Maybe.
Yes.
I know it might not be in your plan, but girlfriend, it's in our plan out here.
Yes. Why don't you tell everybody what you've done on the Facebook?
So, my coworker and one of Jacinta's friends and former coworkers, all of our own accord, honestly, we did it all ourselves, created a Facebook page that you can all go find and like. It's called Let's Make Denver Great Again. Hashtag Bring Back Jacinta Florence. Wow. You can find us on Facebook at MDGA, right? Make Denver Great Again. Yeah, MDGA.
Yeah, I have some good friends. You guys are amazing. I feel so loved.
Yeah, Jacinta's like, what if people in St. Louis see this and think I created it, that I like want to leave St. Louis? And I was like, no, like we created it, like we did it. We want you back.
No, you guys are the best. I got the best friends.
We'll get you back out here soon enough, girlfriend.
Well, I'm coming up for a visit this weekend, so there's that. Yeah.
Well, the podcast will be back together as a full team this weekend for the first time in like a month.
I know. I miss you. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it'll be good. That'll be a good visit. We've got a Halloween party to go to. It'll be great.
Yeah. Well, Jacinta does. She's just taking me. I wasn't invited, but I'm going.
Why does this sound all too accurate?
Because that's all the time.
Yeah.
Our listeners know that Jacinta gets invited to parties and then drags me along when I haven't been invited because no one knows me, especially in a new city.
Yeah. Well, you're going to meet so many people. It's going to be great.
Okay. I trust you.
It's going to be fun. You should. I haven't led you astray thus far. So all good things.
Okay.
Yeah, I led you to wonderful, beautiful, amazing Colorado.
This is so true. This is so true. If you haven't listened to our Denver episode yet, and how I got the job and moved out here, and how it all is because of Jacinta's life weaving itself into mine about 5 years ago, literally, then you should go back and listen to that episode because God weaved our lives together in a very interesting way.
Yes.
So,
I know. Yeah. And it's just like it's amazing, like people, and we're going to be talking about dating and relationships this
mhm,
episode, but I think this is a good time to talk about friendship because, like, friendship is the best. Like,
I know.
I love and I value my friends,
Me
and you
too.
guys are like always going to be there. Like,
Yep.
guys will come and go. I mean, when it's the right one, they will stay. But you guys are like friends. Friendship is the best gift ever, and
Yep.
I'm being really sappy right now, but
But especially
it's
the young
true.
person, because we get too caught up about relationships, and we'll like
Uh
talk about
huh.
that. But it's kind of
For
what this
sure.
episode's all about.
Yeah, and so I guess this is a good place to just dive right
I
in.
guess so.
Because last weekend I was at a conference and I heard Sarah Swafford speak, and I had heard her speak before, and she's the blonde, bubbly girl from Kansas, and she talks about emotional virtue, and me being me, studying theology, studying the theology of the body, going to head and heart immersion courses for a week out in Pennsylvania, I'm like, oh, I've heard this all before. I don't need to hear it again. And actually listening to her talk, I'm like, I almost started crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear this again. Like, it's the gospel message. We need to hear this over and over and over. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is emotional virtue. But I just want to make a bit of a disclaimer that Val and I love being vulnerable on the podcast, but we reserved this episode to not go too deep into our personal lives. But we do have some great insight on the topic that we think you will enjoy and get a lot out of.
Yeah,
Uh,
without sharing our dating histories.
exactly. Maybe one of these days when we get super comfortable with
Nope.
everybody.
Nope.
Okay, that's probably not going to happen. Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. I love
Sorry,
you, Val.
nope. We can have an episode where Jacinta spills all, but not me.
If you guys want that.
It's called my personal life for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So yeah, so we're going to be talking about emotional virtue, and just a refresher from last week, we know that chastity is purity in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions. It's sexual self-control and saving all sexually intimate acts for the gift of marriage. This virtue protects you from getting your heart broken and frees you to love your spouse long before you meet them. The first time I heard that, I was like, I want to love like that. That's amazing. And that's what we're made for. We're made for that forever type of love, not a 2 week love or a 3 week love. And these virtues help us to get there and free us to be fully alive, which is what God wills and what He wants. He wants us to be fully alive. He doesn't want us to be caught up in this drama where it's like, oh my gosh, there's competition over this guy or that guy. No, these virtues are going to free you so that you can have peace and joy and happiness and contentment. Am I right, Val?
Bingo.
Bingo. Yes. So going back to Sarah's book, we are going to take some of her wisdom from the book that I've been reading called Emotional Virtue. So she has a book called Emotional Virtue: A Guide to Drama-Free Relationships, and I picked
Cool.
this up.
We'll link that in the show notes for sure.
Yes, and this is a very insightful book. So this book describes, yeah, basically what it says in the title, how to have drama-free relationships. And we might think like, oh, well, this is a thing of the past. Like we left high school, and I thought I left high school a long time ago too. But somehow or another, all of these issues keep popping up. Not in my life,
Um,
but
well,
obviously we're
at
still
some
talking
point, we
about
all
them.
experience like drama in some form or another, even in our adult lives. And how often have you sat as an adult and gone, "Oh, I thought I was done with this high school drama." You know,
Yes.
and it's not even always about relationships, like in a romantic sense. Sometimes it's friendships, sometimes it's work relationships, sometimes it's like, you and your landlord, and who knows? Like there's all sorts of things it can be about. You know what I mean?
Yes, I totally do know what you mean.
So I mean, we say it's high school drama, and it should be, but like, unfortunately, it's just drama that comes from original sin,
Mhm. Yeah,
really.
from the fall. Yep. And also want to make a disclaimer that if you guys hear a weird drilling noise in the background, they're renovating our apartment downstairs, or not our apartment, they're renovating downstairs. So that's just yeah, just ignore that. So, um now I feel like I've gotten us off topic.
That's okay. That was kind of in the middle of everything, but I'm just giving you trouble. It's all good. I think I've learned to know at this point to ignore random noises. I mean, I have a
That's
dog
true.
that I used to live with another dog, so at some point there were two dogs running around the house. You spilled a beer in my bed one time when we recorded together.
So good.
Um, so yeah, yeah, you can just ignore any weird noises you hear because it's either Jacinta's like apartment renovation that's happening downstairs, or it's like my heat, which is super loud that is currently fixed and working. Um, so many things.
Yeah, it's all good. All right, so let's just dive right into what Sarah Swafford talks about. She talks about the emoticoaster. Sounds like a
Oh,
wild ride, right?
interesting.
So yeah, so she's talking about like we want to avoid the emoticoaster, getting caught up in your emotions, which takes you out of reality.
Yep.
Um, it takes you out of the reality of the situation of what's going on between you and another person, another guy,
Mhm.
guy or girl, whatever. And this is not healthy because it's not grounded in reality. So we want to be in a place, we want to be in a space where we're grounded in reality. And so here are some things to avoid when it comes to talking about the emoticoaster. So she says, first you meet a guy and then you're like, oh my gosh, he's super cute. Like he passed me, and maybe I'll put this in like for if you're like at a young adult event, and it's like, oh my gosh, he comes up to me, he's super cute, and you're like, oh my gosh, he said hi to me, like he must like me, and it's like you feed into this
Right.
way too much. You, even though maybe like he is just coming up to you to say hi at this event, whatever
True.
it is that you're at, just because he wants to meet new people, not necessarily because he is interested in dating you.
True.
Um, you never know what people's motives are. Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
Totally.
yeah. So then what happens next? You meet this guy at this young adult event, say it's a theology on tap. We'll go with that. And you're like, oh my gosh, he's super cute. We had a conversation for 5 minutes. Uh,
Uh-huh.
about how I'm new in town and how do I like Denver or wherever it is, and
This isn't
OMG.
my life, by the way. This isn't like a story that happened to me. Just throwing that out there.
I know I'm pretty much doing this off the cuff just because it just happens to, it's just where we're at as young
Good.
adults.
It's good. Just so everyone knows, these stories aren't like true to our lives. We're just kind of making them up
Yeah, we're
based
just
on things
creating
that can happen
scenarios.
or have happened. But yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yes. So you're like, oh my gosh, I think he likes me. And then what do you do next? You start mentally stalking,
Dreaming.
which sounds so creepy. But this means that you dream about the first time he'll ask you out. You're thinking about like based on the small amount of information that you know about him, you're like rationalizing in your brain about like him like pursuing you or whatever the case may be. But this is just not healthy. Um, so that's called mentally stalking, which is like very, very creepy. And then you move from mentally stalking to social media stalking, where you find out more information about this person instead of letting them tell you about their lives themselves. So you go click and you go through all of his like 1,000 photos on Facebook, and you look at his family vacations and you're like, oh, those are nice vacations. I wonder if we could be able to go on those vacations together. And it's like, whoa, slow down, girl. He just said hi to you and talked to you for 5 minutes, and you're already like moving this fast in your brain. Like, let's calm down a bit, okay? And so your social media stalking, you see his Instagram, you see what he likes, what he's into. And I just don't like this. First of all, I know we've had go back to episode 12 where we talk about our conversation about social media. You know what we think about social media. And I personally the more I get into it, am not becoming a fan of social media because it takes you from reality, and the things that you could learn about somebody you're learning about online, which isn't authentic, and we're made for more than that. Am I right?
Yeah, very much so. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, okay, so Jacinta, I'll ask you this then. Do you
Yeah.
think do you think it's wrong to look at their social media at all before you go out with them? Maybe like say say they did ask you out, but you only know a little bit about them. Should you wait to look at their social media at all? Or should you just
I
not
think
completely go through
so.
their 1,000 pictures?
I think you should wait. Yeah. I think if there's potential for a date, then you should wait. That way you're not like formulating an opinion in your mind about this person.
Okay,
Um,
that's a very good point because I think you
I think
can
so.
easily be like, "Oh, he's like
Because people
this."
can assume things about you based on your social media when it's like,
That's
I don't
true.
even know you, bro, you know?
That's very
So,
true.
yeah, I mean, and that takes a lot of virtue. Because we're so used to having everything readily available to us based on what's online. We can go and find out about anybody online. And it's just like, it takes virtue to step back and be like, no, I'm going to let this person tell them about themselves to me and share with me about their lives rather than me looking online because that's just weird. And I've had somebody tell me that they've looked at my social media and they were like, I Facebook stalked you, ha ha ha. And I'm like, that's just not becoming. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't like that. So it's weird. It's weird, and I don't like Facebook. No, I'm kidding. I'm on there. Obviously, you guys know that I have two profiles. Um, one for work and one for me. It's a bit extra. I didn't but I didn't mean to go on a social media rant. It just happened.
No,
Um
I think that's a good point because I think so often we do just see the few pictures they put, and for some people it's just like a cover photo and a few profile pictures dating back to 2009, and you're like, "Huh,
yeah,
well, they look interesting." And you're like, "What do you mean? You don't even know. Their last profile picture update was in 2013 and they posted, some header cover photo, you know, 18 months ago. Like what does that really tell you? Nothing."
right. Exactly. So I would reserve that social media space for when you get to know them later. Whatever. So those are our thoughts on that. So you move from mental stalking to social media stalking where you find out more information without them telling you. And then what happens next is flirting in real life or over text or over social media. So then you start texting and calling
If it
him.
ever even gets there, you might stalk them for who knows how long.
Mhm. Yeah, and then
Because
if you
he
think
only
about
said
it,
hi to you.
what a waste of time,
I feel
right?
like I shouldn't say we as women. I think men probably do it too.
They do it
Someone.
too. They do it too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like
But since
if
we're
someone
ladies, we're coming at it from a women's point of view. Yeah.
right. But like I feel like yes, there's times where someone's like nice to you, and if you're attracted to them in some way, you're all of a sudden like you said, you're just making stuff up in your mind, and you're like, well, what if this happens? What about this? What about this? There's a chance none of it could happen.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that's
And
a
I feel
waste
like
of
that's when
time.
you're stuck in the mental and the social media part, is that you're just stuck in your brain of what could be, and you don't even really know this person because you may have only met him for 3.5 minutes.
We moved from 5 minutes to 3.5. It's
It
fine.
could be even less than that. I don't know. I don't know your situation. Maybe more, maybe less.
Exactly.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yes, totally. So if it does go past the social media stalking, what can happen next is flirting in real life or over text or social media, and
Yep.
this can come across as fake or inauthentic. And the problem here is, don't you want that person to know the real you, as opposed to just like you're trying to win them over with this flirtiness. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you
Because
start.
how often I feel like are women like, well, he always like said nice things to me when we first started talking, or he acted like this.
Yes, and
And
it's
it's
like,
like, they're trying to woo you.
mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying to win you over, but you want authenticity, and we deserve authenticity in our relationships and in our friendships and our dating relationships. So that can come
Right.
across as inauthentic. And then you start texting, and the problem with texting is that it can be intimate and easily misinterpreted. And you
True. I
could,
think the misinterpreted thing is the
yeah,
big key there.
and you miss like verbal cues and things like that. Um, and you may be texting things that you wouldn't have the courage to like talk about in person. And so if you're
True.
doing that, should you even be texting those things at all?
True. They probably should be saved for in-person conversations.
Correct. Yeah. And so then you start calling, which calling is also intimate, and you're like sitting on the phone for like who knows how long. But that's intimate. So like you could be texting and calling and talking on the phone for like an hour, and you're more apt to share things about yourself with this person, and that creates a bond. But if you're not going anywhere in this friendship and this new development, then that also is a waste of time and a waste of your emotional energy,
Right, because like
which isn't
talking on the
healthy.
phone isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not. And I'm a big phone person too, so I enjoy that.
Right.
Um,
I think it's just making sure you're not becoming like emotionally intimate with someone before you're actually like at that point, right? I think that's what you're trying to really hit home.
yes, that's what I'm
You know,
trying to
just to
say.
talk on the phone, you know, if there's a night that you can't meet up, but you want to chat for a while and like ask each other about your days and learn a little bit more about each other, like that's fine. But like
Right.
you don't need to talk about your whole life story and like how many kids you want when you've known them for a week and you're on the phone for
Yes.
4 hours. You know, like it's just
So
the level, the
boundaries.
boundary level. Yeah.
Yeah, so make sure to have those boundaries. Um, yeah, that's a
I just
really
wanted to
good
be clear
point.
so that people didn't think like, oh, why can't we talk on the phone? Like, what's wrong with that? And there's nothing
Right.
inherently wrong with that.
There's nothing. Yes.
But again, like you said, you just have to you have to be valuable. Like you have to know that your time is valuable and not like talking to someone for hours and hours about things that if you're not even serious about where the relationship is going.
Correct. Yeah. So in that case, when you're not even sure, like if he's even interested, but you're wasting all this time, like sharing your heart over the phone, like that's not healthy.
Right.
So
It's a
that's
good point.
so the goal is to protect your heart and protect yourself, and just to be authentic. That's the goal. Is just to be authentic. We need more authenticity in this world. And the point with all of this is that, oh, we have one more thing. So finally you go from like flirting and texting over social media to bum bum ba which sounds kind of creepy, but physically stalking. It sounds creepier than it actually
Please
is.
explain.
What?
Explain what you mean by that.
Yes, I will. So it's just not just. I'm like, oh, it's just doing this. Like I've done that before. No. Um, So basically, Sarah Swafford says it's rearranging your schedule so that you will run into him. So you may be doing things that you necessarily don't like, but you're like, oh, well, this guy's gonna be there, so I'm gonna be there too. I'm trying to think of like a situation, like maybe if you like hated a certain sport and you signed up for this league because you knew they were signing up, like, come on, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Like
does
if
that
you
make
want,
sense?
you have friends that are generally like, you're like, you know what? There's a lot of people I know going, or it's a cool way to meet new people. That's great.
Right.
But like
But if
your main
it's like
focus shouldn't be just to go for this one person that you really don't even know.
exactly. So again, authenticity. So,
Yeah, and
um
I think the big thing is like that we just get way too ahead of ourselves. You know, like just
yes,
mentioned
yes.
earlier, like we have one great interaction and then we sometimes let our mind spiral out of control. So, and at times when we do that, we're setting ourselves self up for heartbreak because we really just have to let time tell us how serious things are going to be or if it's going to be anything at all.
Mhm.
And if it is going to be something, you just have to try to not let it get too serious too fast, right? And like I'm not saying
Mhm.
you shouldn't date with a purpose because you should date with a purpose. But just because you went on like one date doesn't mean you have to text all day every day and talk all the time and you have to be exclusive with this and them and all that. And like it's okay to just go on a first date and it's just be a first date.
Mhm.
You know, like that's okay. You don't have to be immediately exclusive. You don't have to talk all the time. You don't have to all of a sudden be having these super deep conversations when you've only met them once. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to just go out once and like learn more about each other. And even if it's basic stuff like what you like to do, what you have in common, what kind of like, you know, if you were raised by mom and dad, like,
Uh-huh.
you know, those are a little like that's a deep conversation, family life, but like, you know, it's not as deep as like, well, where are you at on a spiritual level? You know, like that's going to take some time to talk about. You know,
Yes,
you don't
I
have to
agree.
ask all those things immediately. You don't have to immediately be talking about having them meet your family. Like, take the steps, take the proper steps, wait. You know,
Yes.
don't introduce them to your family on the first date. Like, you know, like there's time. Don't jump the gun on everything. Like, you have to let time tell. And I think the big thing is that you have to pray about it if you start seeing someone seriously. You know, you
Yes.
can't just
And to know that God has a plan for your life and to
right,
place your hope and trust in that. I think a priest
right,
friend of mine, everything that you said just now, you nailed it with like we get way too ahead of ourselves when it comes to dating. And I think that like with this hookup culture, couple things here. One thing with the hookup culture, me and my friend were talking about it recently, and it comes down to a lack of hope that you don't believe that you are going to attain this relationship that you have a desire for that's good, and it's been grounded on a good friendship. And so, what do? We give in to the culture and we settle for less than what we're made for, and that looks like a one night stand. When it's like, come on, man, you're better than that, and you're made for more than that, for more than just this one physical act. You, if you're called to marriage, are made for a beautiful friendship that's grounded in truth, goodness, and beauty. So people don't believe that that's attainable, and so there's this lack of hope. And
right.
a priest friend of mine recently said that there is this huge lack of hope that we have, and one
Yeah,
for God's plan for our lives. And one thing that we need to pray for is hope. So that if you get anything out of this episode is to know that God has a plan for your life. I don't know what he's calling you to. You have to discern that. That's between you and Jesus. Um,
right,
but he does have a radical, amazing, beautiful, wonderful plan for your life. And we need to pray for more hope so that we
right.
don't get caught up
That's
in
a
these
really good point.
petty situations where we're wasting our time obsessing about all of these things that we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's another thing too, like, and you had talked earlier, you had mentioned like competition over guys and like
Oh my
girls being like,
gosh.
"Oh, no, I like him, like, so you can't talk to him."
That's
Like,
rooted
and
in
that's
deep
a very middle school
insecurity.
thing. That's a very middle school thing, but it still happens, you know?
Oh yeah.
I also think it's really common for people to just put all their eggs in one basket. Like, you have one person that you're into, but y'all aren't actually dating, but you don't let yourself be open to meet other people because you're like, no, this is the guy I want to be with. Well, you don't even know that. You really don't. You're not dating. You're not, you know, maybe you haven't even actually went out. You just have a crush. Like, that's normal and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's also nothing wrong with pursuing that because it could be something, but you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket, you know?
Yes. I think that is so good, Val. In the competition, and we can't put a claim on any person, especially if
Yeah,
they're
you
if
can't
that
claim someone that's not,
if
yeah,
their feelings towards us aren't reciprocated, then you have no business putting a claim on that person. They are free to choose whoever they want to date. And so sometimes there's competition between girls and a guy, and it's just like, whoa. And it's like, you can't talk to him because I'm into him. And for some reason, that comes from being rooted in deep insecurity. Um, because that guy may not be interested in us. But that doesn't mean that your friends, if he's interested in somebody else, he can't date them. So just be open and let go of all of that, because
yeah,
that breeds it breeds insecurity and anxiety, and that's not what we're made for. So
right,
let it go and just yeah, hopefully this episode helps if you're struggling with some of this emotional virtue. But if we are truly trying to ground our relationships in reality, we can avoid some of these hangups like competition. We can avoid those hangups that really leave us with lack of peace.
right.
And so that's the goal, is to have peaceful relationships and friendships, so that we can thrive in our lives. So
Bingo.
yeah,
That's right.
awesome.
Well, I think we've said all there is to say.
I think so too. I've enjoyed this conversation. I think that a lot of you will get a lot out of it. I know I did just by talking about it. It's a good reminder for myself for myself, for ourselves, and we
Yeah,
never want to come across like we're amazing and perfect. Like we're talking about this because maybe we struggle with some of it too. So
right. Very good point.
yeah,
So, on that note, if you aren't following us yet and you would like to, make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you feel so inclined to give us a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts, that helps our podcast grow and it will then attract new listeners and things like that. If you're on the Instagram machine,
yes,
thank Mabob, feel free to go follow us at Cathaholics Podcast. Um, and that's all there really is right now. We don't have a website. We just have the podcast, which you can find wherever you listen to podcasts, and we have the Instagram account. So
Spotify
um,
and iTunes, my friends.
yeah, feel free to DM us if you have ideas or comments or questions or things that you would like to hear us talk about. And if you're new to the podcast, we're glad you stopped by. And there are quite a few episodes, so feel free to go back and listen to some of those
Absolutely, we're enjoying
or
this
all of
as much
them.
as you guys are.
Yes, for sure.
What were you gonna say something else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was all.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
On that note, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.